Wow. So this is it. This is what the majority of adults worldwide fear: public speaking. I'm a little bit scared, but that fear is not the legacy that I want to leave for my children. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. At what age could we begin training our children in the skills of public speaking? The nature of education in our primary schools has already changed a great deal since you or I were there as students. A few months back, I asked James, 6 years old, to spell the word house. He replied quickly and confidently, "Why don't you Google it?" I believe the purpose of education in our primary schools should quite simply be to train our children to stand up, to stand out, and when they get knocked back in life, as they will, to choose to stand again. My youngest son, Philip, started school 2 years ago, and in true impulsive, impatient 4-year-old style, he wanted to master everything immediately, or as soon as possible, yesterday if not sooner. So can you imagine his frustration when after 2 whole days, he quickly realized he still couldn't read, write, or play football like the big kids. And then, worst of all, a teacher told him to stop talking. Stop talking? The one thing he knew he could do, and he was being told to stop talking. Now, of course, we adults know why a 4-year-old might be told to stop talking. But what if the message received is different to the message intended? Philip will retire, if he's lucky, in 2074. If there's one thing that the last 23 years in education has taught me, is that I haven't a clue what the world will be like in 3 years' time. As a parent, a teacher, a principal, how can I prepare Philip and his friends for a world I don't know? A world in which they will most likely have jobs that haven't yet been invented. I believe strongly that the very best I can do is to train them to stand and deliver. Do any of you remember in primary school being told to stop talking? Well, here's my idea. It's simple, so simple. It only took me 23 years in education to come up with it. What if, instead of telling our children to stop talking, we said, talk, and keep talking, and we'll give you the skills, the structure, and the safe, supportive environment in which to plan, prepare, and practice talking. Talk with intention. Talk to investigate. Talk to inform. Talk to learn. I've seen it time and time again from personal and professional experience. When our 5-year-olds come to school, they have it. They have the readiness, the rapture, the ravenous appetite to learn and use language orally. They want to talk. They want to be heard. They want attention. This is a clear strength of theirs at this time. Use it or lose it. Do we use it? Or do we allow them to lose it? Why don't we, at this stage, begin training our children in the skills of public speaking, skills we know are bound to benefit them in their futures? Think of the remarkably rapid rate at which they've already acquired oral language to date. In the first 5 years of their lives, from 0 to wow. It's as if they're already in the fast lane when they come bursting through the gates of our schools, and we tell them to slow down, or sometimes to even stop talking. Why? A few years ago, when the staff of my school and I were engaged in the process of school self-evaluation, we identified oral language as the area of literacy most in need of focus and attention in our school. And when I discussed this with other school leaders, it became clear that this was in fact the case for many other primary schools out there too. So I decided to take a closer look. And what I found out was interesting. Because in recent decades, there has been a clear and unambiguous recognition of the importance, the fundamental importance of oral language for learning and literacy skill acquisition. This has resulted in an increased focus on oral language development, which is manifest in the curriculum and policy documents of education systems, not just here in Ireland, but worldwide. Here in Ireland, we are told that in terms of literacy on the curriculum, oral language is given an equal weighting with reading and writing. Well, firstly, I'm not convinced about the wisdom in this so-called equal weighting, because we all know oral language is a child's first and most frequently used medium of communication. So as such, is it not the building block of literacy? And secondly, as a teacher and a principal, I can state categorically that this so-called equal weighting is definitely not reflected in the amount or the clarity of the resources available to support us, the teachers, in delivering the oral language strands of the curriculum. And what is absolutely lacking is a resource that focuses explicitly on developing public speaking skills in children. In fact, despite having searched far and wide, I wasn't able to find one. And so I began to design one myself. You see, I am scared. A few months ago, my daughter invited some of her friends over to our house to play. And as I passed by the toy room, I stopped, delighted to hear the sweet sound of laughter coming from within. I popped my head around the door to see if I could steal a glimpse of the source of this humor. And you know what? My heart sank. Each of the 4 female friends, my daughter included, were engaged on individual devices, laughing at individual contacts on individual screens. I admit, I don't understand this. Bob Dylan's advice comes to mind: don't criticize what you can't understand. But it's hard. You see, I'm neither technophobic nor anti-technology. But am I alone in wanting my children to be more present and to enjoy more fully the company of their real friends, those friends who are there with them in the flesh? Yes, I am afraid, and more than a little worried for my own children's communication skills. We don't need research to tell us that children nowadays are not spending enough time communicating. But communication is a skill. It needs to be practiced. School is probably the most reliable and relevant place where our children will have the opportunity, the audience, and the time to practice these skills. So why is it more important today, more than ever before, for our children to actively practice their communication skills? Well, quite simply, you all probably know it, but there's an unprecedented abundance of forces out there now, lurking, luring our loved ones into more passive, sedentary activities. Excessive use of technology, excessive use of television, unhealthy treats, unregulated social media, personal listening devices, DVDs in cars, and many more. Intentional or not, oral conversations and language development are being discouraged by these and more. My idea is simply that we encourage, enable, and empower our children to stand and present in front of an audience a minimum of 10 times a year from their very first year in primary school, be it an audience of a small group of their peers, their parents, the class, the school. Each child would be enabled to speak on a range of topics chosen from the curriculum, all the while developing step-by-step specific oral language communication and presentation skills. While one child presents, all of the other children are engaged in the very important communication skills of listening and evaluating. Feedback is positive and specific. With such a structured program, I believe the children would take the bones of the projects that we give them and turn them into something way beyond our adult imaginations. In fact, this is not just something that I believe. This is something I know. Because for the last year and a half, we've been implementing this program in our school. And with a desire and eagerness to stand and deliver, our students have continuously touched, moved, and inspired us with their presentations. Eddie, aged 11, he told us when he finished his first 10 projects that his favorite project was presenting about ancient Egypt. Although I'll never forget the very first time he stood to do his first project and introduce himself. In his characteristically serious manner, he said, "My name is Eddie. People say I don't have a sense of humor, and I don't think that's funny." Well, it cracked us all up at the time, and it still makes me smile today. It was memorable. You see, we Irish, we do humor really well. We love to tell jokes and stories. We have a knack for it. The spark is in there. It just needs to be lit. So, 10 projects a year from their first year in primary school. Imagine then by the time these children are 13, preparing for secondary school in their futures. We know they will have stood and presented in front of an audience a minimum of 80 times. 80 speeches. Wow, what might that look like in terms of courage, confidence, and communicative competence? I don't know about you, but I believe these are the 13-year-olds our world needs. And not only that, but these are the skills vital for our 13-year-olds to survive and thrive in an ever-changing world. Because no matter how good they are at texting, emailing, using different technologies, there will always be a need for face-to-face communication. Won't there? For relationships, day-to-day encounters, oral exams in secondary schools, interviews, debates, workplace presentations. Technology is truly amazing. It may well be able to connect people's minds, but it cannot yet do what only face-to-face human interaction can. It cannot yet connect people's hearts. In a world where technology provides us with instant answers, instant results, instant gratification, engagement in a structured, fun, and active oral language program could once again allow our children to go through the process of discovery. Albert Einstein feared that our technology would exceed our humanity. But a good, structured oral language program could empower our children to use technology as the tremendous tool that it is, but to enhance their presentations, with the child firmly at the center, the child as the presenter. A simple idea: 80 speeches before the age of 13, making public speaking a habit and second nature at a time when children most want to talk. Picture your own son or daughter in Crow Park someday, triumphantly delivering that cup acceptance speech. Or maybe using their practiced and polished public speaking skills in possible future careers in sales, teaching, journalism, communications, television, or maybe just for the day of their wedding or their sibling's wedding, or when they're asked to stand and deliver to the very best of their ability that all-important eulogy for a close relative or friend. I'm sure we've all heard it before. The majority of adults worldwide fear public speaking on a scale second only to losing a loved one and death. And many say they would rather die. They would rather be in the coffin than delivering the eulogy. Is that really the legacy we want to hand on to our children? Our 5-year-olds have definitely not yet inherited those inhibitions. They want to talk. They want to be heard. They want attention. Why don't we seize the moment? I was a very shy child. And in many ways, I still am a shy adult. People who know me today and didn't know me back then find this really hard to believe, simply because today I choose to speak in public. But just because I was shy, that did not mean that I didn't have something to say. Every child, every single child has something unique and special to say and contribute. Michelangelo advised, the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it. It's that, caught it. It's that it's too low and we reach it. We need to raise the bar and stop wasting this precious, opportune learning time in our children's lives. If we encourage, empower, and enable them to stand and deliver, I believe the program and the process, they're simple, but the potential and the possibilities, they're limitless. Thank you.